The story begins with humanity standing at a critical point in its history. After years of observing the galaxy beyond Earth, humans had realized that they were no longer alone in the universe, and that the galaxy was full of species far older, more advanced, and far more powerful than themselves. Among these, the Xerian Union was the most influential, controlling vast regions of space, commanding fleets that could obliterate entire colonies, and dictating rules that most civilizations followed without question. Humans had always known that establishing contact with such a powerful alien alliance was dangerous, but they also understood that isolation was no longer an option. Earth's leaders realized that to secure the planet's future, they would have to negotiate, cooperate, and prove that humanity could play a role in galactic affairs. It was a delicate balance between courage and caution. The first signs of diplomacy began subtly. Messages of goodwill were exchanged through neutral channels, carefully monitored by human scientists, strategists, and diplomats. The Xerians were polite and seemingly cooperative. Their words were smooth, their tone calm, and their proposals appeared fair. They suggested treaties to ensure trade routes remained open, safety agreements to protect explorers, and plans to share knowledge about advanced technologies. On the surface, it seemed like a genuine offer of friendship. However, humans had studied the histories of countless alien empires, including those of the Xerians. There was a pattern, a hidden warning that whispered through their previous treaties with other species. The Xerians always got what they wanted in the end. Treaties were tools, not bonds. Agreements were often signed, only to be broken when the other side was least prepared. Humans knew that trusting blindly could mean disaster. Despite these warnings, the United Earth Council, the central governing body representing all nations and colonies on Earth, pushed for diplomacy. They believed that humanity's best chance for survival and growth lay in forming alliances, in showing that humans could negotiate and maintain peace. Leaders argued that war against the Xerions would be catastrophic. Earth did not yet have the firepower or experience to withstand a direct confrontation with such a powerful force. The Council's debates were intense. Some members feared that appearing weak or hesitant would invite aggression, while others worried that aggressive posturing could trigger conflict prematurely. In the end, a cautious compromise emerged. Humanity would sign a peace treaty, but not without taking measures to protect itself in secret. The treaty itself was carefully constructed. On paper, it was a document filled with promises of non-aggression, mutual respect, and open borders for scientific exchange. It was designed to present humanity as cooperative, trustworthy, and eager to join the interstellar community. Publicly, the announcement was met with optimism. News outlets celebrated a historic moment, the first true peace treaty between humans and the most powerful alien alliance in known space. Citizens on Earth were proud, feeling a sense of achievement and hope that their children would grow up in a safer, more connected galaxy. Leaders spoke in confident tones about a new era of friendship and collaboration, emphasizing shared values and common goals. Yet, behind the polished announcements and celebratory speeches, a very different reality existed. Humanity did not take the treaty lightly. High-ranking officials, military strategists, engineers, and intelligence officers worked quietly, ensuring that Earth was prepared for every possible eventuality. They knew that the Xerions could use the treaty as a trap. For this reason, massive defensive projects were initiated in secret. Hidden shipyards were constructed on distant asteroids, protected by cloaking technology and layered with defense systems. These shipyards were capable of producing highly advanced warships that could rival even the Xerian fleets. Engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, often in shifts around the clock, designing weapons systems that were both innovative and lethal, blending human ingenuity with the limited knowledge they had of alien technology. That human military also underwent a quiet transformation. Special forces were trained in secret programs that combined terrestrial combat techniques with strategies adapted for space warfare. Pilots, engineers, and tacticians were chosen for their skill, resilience, and ability to think under pressure. They practiced maneuvers that would allow them to strike first if necessary, yet always under the guise of routine exercises or simulations. The Guardian-class cruisers, a new generation of human warships, were designed to operate in extreme conditions, with stealth capabilities, long-range weapons, and advanced shielding systems. These ships were kept hidden from both the public and the Xerians, a strategic advantage that Earth's leaders knew could determine the outcome of a potential conflict. At the same time, intelligence operations were ramped up. Analysts intercepted communications, studied patterns of Xerian movements, and gathered as much information as possible about the alien alliance's fleet composition, tactics, and weaknesses. Human agents were placed across distant colonies, some in the guise of scientists, others as diplomats, and a few even as traders. Their mission was to observe, report, and if necessary, sabotage enemy plans without revealing Earth's growing strength. It was a delicate dance. Humans had to appear cooperative while building a hidden foundation capable of resisting an attack. This dual strategy was taxing, mentally and emotionally. For the people involved, it meant living with constant tension, knowing that one misstep could reveal humanity's true capabilities, or provoke the Xerions into aggression. Despite the secret preparations, life on Earth continued in a way that appeared normal. Cities thrived, technology advanced, and scientific discovery accelerated. The public believed that the peace treaty had opened the doors to interstellar cooperation, with new opportunities for trade, education, and exploration. Earth's leaders carefully maintained this image of optimism and normalcy. Schools taught children about the bright future awaiting humanity among the stars. News agencies highlighted stories of interspecies scientific projects, trade missions, and cultural exchanges. All of this was intended to maintain a sense of calm and confidence among the population, while the real work of preparation continued quietly in the background. Within this environment, tension and hope coexisted. Diplomats walked carefully in their meetings, aware that a single misstep could be interpreted as hostility. Scientists and engineers worked with urgency, aware that time was limited and that humanity's survival might depend on their innovations. Military commanders trained with an intensity that blended discipline, strategy, and improvisation, understanding that real conflict might not follow any known rules. Yet, for the ordinary citizens, life seemed peaceful. They were unaware of the secret armadas, the cloaked shipyards, and the covert intelligence operations. This duality, the calm above and the storm below, defined humanity's position at this stage. On the surface, there was a sense of trust and cooperation. Beneath it, a carefully constructed web of preparation, caution, and vigilance. The most remarkable aspect of this period was the mindset humanity adopted. Leaders and citizens alike understood that peace was not merely the absence of war. It was the result of careful strategy, constant awareness, and readiness for any scenario. Humans had learned from history, both their own and the history of other civilizations, that hope alone was insufficient when dealing with powerful forces. Trust had to be earned, and survival required preparation. By signing the treaty while secretly strengthening their defenses, humans demonstrated a combination of wisdom, foresight, and resilience. They did not allow optimism to blind them, nor did fear paralyze their actions. This setup laid the foundation for everything that would follow. The treaty created a scenario in which humans could observe their potential adversaries closely, test their intentions, and gain insight into the galaxy's political and military dynamics. At the same time, the hidden armadas and fortified shipyards ensured that if the Xerians chose betrayal, humanity would not be caught unprepared. This delicate balance between hope and vigilance, diplomacy and defense defined humanity's character. It showed that they were capable of acting with patience, intelligence, and foresight. Even in the face of a potentially overwhelming adversary, they refused to be passive. They chose to control what they could and prepare for what they could not predict. As the story opens, humanity stands on the threshold of a new era. The peace treaty appears to signal cooperation, friendship, and interstellar collaboration. But beneath that surface, the human race is quietly preparing for the possibility that the treaty is nothing more than a setup, a trap designed to lull them into complacency. This dual reality, public optimism contrasted with private vigilance, creates a tension that will drive the events to come. Humans have taken the first steps in what may be the most significant chapter of their history, demonstrating that they are not naive, but cautious, clever, and determined to survive no matter the odds. After humanity had signed the peace treaty with the Xerian Union, life on the surface of Earth seemed calm and filled with optimism. The public believed that a new era of cooperation and interstellar friendship had begun. People spoke with excitement about new opportunities for trade, exploration, and cultural exchange with alien species. News outlets highlighted stories of scientists collaborating on distant worlds, of trade convoys carrying Earth's goods across space, and of human representatives attending galactic summits. Yet beneath this veneer of peace, the leaders and military commanders of Earth knew that the universe rarely offered such calm without a price. Humans had learned from history that powerful entities rarely acted out of pure goodwill, and the Xerians had a reputation that preceded them, a reputation of cunning, deception, and calculated aggression. The first warning signs were subtle, almost easily dismissed. Human outposts at the edges of space reported strange anomalies. Survey ships, which were meant to monitor asteroid belts and unexplored systems, noticed Xerian vessels drifting just beyond the borders of human-controlled space. The aliens claimed these were accidental excursions, or routine inspections, but their repeated presence near sensitive regions of human space suggested otherwise. At first, these incidents were treated as minor violations, and diplomatic channels were used to address them. Human officials politely communicated their concerns, reminding the Xerians of the terms of the treaty. Each time the Xerians responded with smooth reassurances, claiming technical errors, navigational malfunctions, or rogue captains who had acted without orders. On the surface, it appeared to be nothing serious, a series of misunderstandings that could be resolved through conversation. However, the situation quickly escalated. Supply convoys traveling between Earth and outer colonies began to report strange occurrences. Some shipments arrived late, others were missing entirely, and in certain cases, crews returned with stories of mysterious encounters. Satellites detected unusual energy readings, suggesting that communications had been intercepted, altered, or jammed. These were not simple accidents. Analysts in Earth's intelligence networks began to notice patterns. The Zirian ships always appeared near strategically important locations, hyperspace gates, mining operations, and colonies critical to human logistics. Human commanders realized that this was a deliberate demonstration of control, a silent message meant to test humanity's readiness and response. The tension in the United Earth Council grew. Meetings became more urgent, debates more heated. Some members argued for immediate confrontation, believing that preemptive action could prevent a larger conflict. Others feared that any aggressive move would trigger exactly what the Zarians wanted: a war in which humanity would be crushed. The Council understood that direct action could be catastrophic, but inaction was equally dangerous. Humanity needed to gather more intelligence, confirm the intentions of the Zirians, and prepare a strategy that could respond to any scenario. Behind closed doors, human engineers accelerated the construction of hidden facilities. Cloaked shipyards on distant moons and asteroids expanded rapidly, and the new Guardian-class warships moved closer to operational readiness. All of this work had to remain invisible to both the public and the Zarians' intelligence agencies. Deployed a network of agents and listening posts throughout nearby star systems. These operatives, disguised as traders, scientists, or diplomats, quietly observed Zirian movements, recorded their transmissions, and tried to anticipate the next step. Analysts worked day and night, decoding alien communications and searching for hidden patterns. Every intercepted transmission, every anomaly in ship movements, and every report from border colonies was carefully logged and analyzed. Humans learned to read subtle signs, the way a ship maneuvered in orbit, the frequency of certain signals, even the color of lights on alien vessels. Each small clue contributed to a larger understanding, gradually revealing that the Zirians were preparing something far more serious than accidental incursions. Amid these covert activities, human engineers and strategists developed contingency plans. The Guardian-class cruisers were not just weapons. They were part of a larger strategy designed to give humanity an advantage if diplomacy failed. Pilots were trained in advanced combat simulations, preparing for multiple scenarios, from sudden fleet attacks to complex maneuvers in asteroid fields. Engineers refined energy shields, long-range plasma cannons, and stealth systems, ensuring that human warships could appear in multiple locations simultaneously, confusing and overwhelming the enemy. Even supply lines and logistics were overhauled. Hidden depots stocked with fuel, weapons, and repair materials were established in remote locations, allowing human forces to operate independently if the front lines were attacked. The rising conflict also affected the morale and psychology of those on the front lines. Border colony administrators, space station commanders, and convoy crews faced constant uncertainty. They had to carry out their normal duties, maintaining trade, overseeing research, and ensuring colonists' safety while also remaining vigilant against potential threats. The tension was invisible to most civilians, but for those working on the edges of human space, it was palpable. Every Zirian ship sighting, every unusual signal, and every intercepted transmission caused heightened alertness. Personnel had to make split-second decisions, knowing that any mistake could compromise their safety and the security of the colonies. Meanwhile, human diplomats continued to engage with the Zirians, carefully maintaining the illusion of trust. Meetings and communications were conducted with politeness, respect, and a veneer of cooperation. Earth's representatives smiled, asked polite questions, and nodded at the assurances of Zirian officials, all while secretly monitoring their words for hidden meaning. These diplomatic interactions became a form of chess, with humans moving cautiously, weighing each statement, and preparing for the moment when they might have to act decisively. It was a delicate balance between appearing calm and friendly while maintaining the readiness to respond to aggression at any time. The turning point within this rising conflict came when human intelligence then intercepted a particularly revealing transmission, hidden deep in the data streams of a Zirian fleet movement. Analysts discovered patterns indicating a potential coordinated strike. The transmission was heavily encoded, but skilled cryptographers were able to piece together enough information to suggest that the Zirians were planning to test human defenses, or perhaps even strike directly at critical colonies and military positions. This revelation confirmed humanity's suspicions. The treaty had been a tool for deception. The Zirians were not content with mere cooperation. They were assessing weaknesses, probing for vulnerabilities, and preparing for a potential attack. Upon receiving this intelligence, the United Earth Council faced a critical decision. Publicly, they continued to promote the image of peace and cooperation. They could not risk exposing the Zirians' plans, which might trigger preemptive retaliation or panic among Earth's citizens. Privately, they accelerated preparations. Hidden fleets were put on high alert, defense simulations ran continuously, and special forces were given new assignments to secure key strategic points. Earth's leaders knew that maintaining the balance of secrecy was essential. If the Zirians discovered that humans had uncovered their plans, it could provoke exactly the war humanity had been trying to avoid. Yet at the same time, failure to act decisively would leave humanity vulnerable to devastating losses. The tension of this period was not limited to military and intelligence circles. Scientists, engineers, and strategists all felt the weight of responsibility. Every decision mattered. The design of a new ship component, the timing of a fleet deployment, or the accuracy of a sensor could determine the survival of entire colonies. Humans had to think ahead, anticipate enemy moves, and prepare solutions for scenarios that had never been encountered before. The work was exhausting, and mistakes could be catastrophic. But the human determination to survive and protect the species drove them forward. Even in the face of uncertainty, they refused to allow fear or doubt to paralyze their actions. The rising conflict also highlighted the ingenuity and resilience of humanity. While the Xerians were more technologically advanced in some areas, humans relied on adaptability, creativity, and determination. Engineers devised unconventional methods to shield ships, conceal movements, and enhance the effectiveness of weapons. Tacticians developed strategies that leveraged the unique strengths of human pilots and crews, combining teamwork, speed, and unpredictability. Analysts interpreted patterns in ways that the Xerians likely had not anticipated, turning intelligence gathering into a form of strategy that could outmaneuver a more powerful opponent. Humanity was learning to turn the threat of deception into an advantage. By the end of this period, the rising conflict had established a clear understanding for human leadership. The peace treaty was fragile. The Xerians were untrustworthy, and readiness was not optional. Every move, from the smallest intelligence gathering to the construction of massive warships, was part of a comprehensive strategy to ensure that Earth could survive any attempt at aggression. Humans had learned to operate in two worlds simultaneously, one of diplomacy and apparent cooperation, and one of preparation, vigilance, and readiness for war. It was a delicate and dangerous balance, but it was necessary for survival. It demonstrates the careful, strategic thinking of Earth's leaders, the resilience of engineers, pilots, and operatives, and the tension of living under constant threat. The Xerian subtle provocations tested humanity's resolve, and humans rose to the challenge, combining intelligence, creativity, and stealth. The story here is not just about preparation for war. It is about learning to read the intentions of a more powerful adversary, maintaining calm under pressure, and turning a deceptive situation into a position of potential strength. By the time the rising conflict reaches its peak, humans are ready to act if necessary. The seeds of strategy, stealth, and vigilance planted in this phase will determine the success or failure of Earth in the battles to come. While outwardly the treaty continues to hold, the reality is far more complex. Humanity is quietly preparing to defend itself, understanding that the galaxy is not ruled by trust, but by power, cunning, and the ability to anticipate threats. As the months passed following the signing of the peace treaty, humanity's leaders and military commanders continued their careful surveillance of the Xerian Union. The initial signs of deception had grown more obvious. Supply convoys were disrupted, border colonies reported minor attacks disguised as accidents, and Xerian ships continued to appear near sensitive human systems. Every small event, once dismissed as coincidence, now formed a larger pattern. Analysts working in Earth's intelligence networks began piecing together the movements and communications of Xerian fleets, looking for any clue that would reveal their ultimate plan. What they discovered was both shocking and inevitable. The Xerians were planning a coordinated strike on humanity's colonies and strategic positions. This revelation marked the critical turning point in humanity's approach. It confirmed what leaders had feared all along. The peace treaty was nothing more than a setup. The Xerians had never intended genuine peace. It was a trap meant to lull humans into complacency while they prepared to strike. When the transmission revealing this plan was decrypted, the shock within the United Earth Council was immediate and intense. Meetings that day were tense, the kind where silence weighs heavier than words. Leaders realized that time was slipping away, and that any delay could allow the Xerians to strike first. Panic was a danger. It could lead to rash decisions that would expose Earth's preparations or give away the knowledge of the impending attack. Yet, amidst the fear, there was determination. Humanity had come too far to be fooled. The Council understood that revealing their knowledge too soon could be disastrous. If the Xerians realized that humans had discovered their plan, they could accelerate their attack, adapt their strategies, or target critical points that had not yet been fortified. The challenge was immense. Humanity had to act, but act carefully. The first step was planning a response that would both protect human colonies and give Earth the strategic advantage. Military strategists, engineers, and intelligence officers gathered to discuss options. They understood that direct confrontation would be dangerous, but allowing the Xerians to achieve surprise would be far worse. Plans were drafted in multiple layers. Some focused on defensive positions near the most vulnerable colonies, ensuring that hidden fleets could respond quickly. Others developed offensive strategies designed to intercept Xerian ships before they reached human systems. Simulations ran continuously, testing every possibility, from small-scale raids to full-scale fleet engagements. Every variable was considered: the timing of Xerian jumps into human space, the capacity of their fleet, the potential weaknesses of their command structure, and even psychological tactics that could confuse or demoralize the enemy. Meanwhile, the Guardian-class cruisers, which had been in preparation for months, were readied for immediate deployment. These ships were not merely weapons, they were symbols of human ingenuity and resilience. Engineers ensured that every system was operational, from energy shields to stealth modules, weapons systems to communication networks. Pilots trained relentlessly, running through scenarios that simulated the Xerians' strategies, often improvising responses when their simulations introduced unexpected challenges. Each member of the fleet understood the stakes. These were not exercises or drills, they were preparations for what could become humanity's first encounter with true galactic warfare. Covert intelligence operations intensified. Observers and operatives positioned in key systems reported on Xerian fleet movements, noting patterns that indicated the timing and targets of the planned attack. Analysts scrutinized every transmission, every ship trajectory, and every unusual energy reading. Through careful observation, they identified weaknesses and inconsistencies in the Xerian plan. This information was critical. It allowed human commanders to anticipate the enemy's actions and turn the trap into an opportunity. By understanding the Xerian strategy, humanity could prepare ambushes, reinforce critical points, and deploy forces in a way that would maximize their effectiveness while minimizing risk. One of the most challenging aspects of this period was the need to maintain secrecy. The general public remained unaware of the imminent threat. News of disruptions in supply routes or minor border incidents was carefully framed as accidents or technical failures. Diplomats continued to meet with Xerian representatives, maintaining the appearance of trust and cooperation. Every human action had to serve two purposes: prepare for the coming conflict while ensuring that the Xerians remained unaware that their plan had been discovered. This dual strategy required precise coordination. Any misstep could alert the enemy, turning the advantage back in their favor. The turning point was not just strategic, it was also psychological. Humanity had been forced to confront the reality of a deceitful and powerful opponent. The knowledge that the Xerians intended betrayal was unsettling, but it also sparked a profound determination. Humans realized that they could not rely on diplomacy alone. Survival depended on readiness, intelligence, and the ability to act decisively. This understanding transformed the approach of Earth's leaders and military planners. They were no longer reacting to minor provocations. They were preparing for a battle that could decide the fate of the species. Every decision carried weight. Engineers, analysts, and strategists worked with urgency, knowing that each day brought the Xerians closer to their strike. During this period, humans also had to make difficult moral and strategic decisions. Revealing the Xerians' plan too early could provoke panic or lead to reckless actions. Waiting too long could allow the enemy to strike with devastating effect. The United Earth Council decided that the best course of action was to maintain the illusion of ignorance while positioning their forces for maximum advantage. Defensive positions were reinforced quietly. Fleets were hidden in remote systems, and colonies were subtly prepared for emergency scenarios. Communication networks were secured and backup plans were implemented in case Xerian attacks targeted civilian populations. This careful balance between secrecy and preparation became a defining feature of humanity's strategy. At the same time, human scientists and engineers continued to innovate. New technologies and tactical approaches were developed to counter the Xerian advantage in fleet strength and experience. Stealth systems allowed human ships to remain undetectable until the moment they needed to strike. Energy shields and adaptive weapons gave the Guardian-class cruisers the ability to withstand heavy fire while delivering precise counterattacks. Logistics teams ensured that supplies, fuel, and ammunition could be deployed rapidly across multiple systems, allowing humans to respond flexibly to enemy movements. These preparations were essential to creating a situation where humans could not only survive an attack but also seize the initiative. The psychological impact on human personnel was significant. Pilots, soldiers, and operatives faced intense stress, knowing that failure could mean catastrophic loss of life and the potential destruction of entire colonies. Yet this tension also forged resilience and focus. Teams learned to operate under extreme pressure, relying on training, strategy, and trust in each other. Human ingenuity and adaptability became their greatest assets. While the Xerians relied on superior numbers and technology, humans relied on creativity, teamwork, and the ability to anticipate the unexpected. This combination gave humanity a unique edge, turning what might have been a hopeless situation into a challenge they could confront. Diplomacy continued in parallel with these preparations. Humans engaged the Xerians in meetings and negotiations, carefully observing their behavior and probing for weaknesses. Every word, gesture, and response was analyzed. This intelligence gathering allowed humans to refine their understanding of the Xerian strategy and anticipate their moves. It also helped maintain the appearance of normalcy, ensuring that the Xerians remained unaware that their plan had been uncovered. By balancing diplomacy with covert preparation, humans created a situation in which they could control the timing and location of their response. increasing their chances of turning the trap into an advantage. As the turning point reached its climax, humanity's leadership made a critical decision. They would not wait passively for the Xerians to strike. Instead, they would prepare to act preemptively if necessary, using the knowledge they had gained to anticipate and counter the enemy's strategy. This decision marked a fundamental shift in approach. Humans moved from a defensive posture to a proactive strategy, combining stealth, intelligence, and rapid deployment to ensure that the Xerians' plans could be disrupted and their forces defeated. It was a bold and risky approach, but one that reflected the courage, determination, and strategic thinking that had come to define humanity. By the end of this period, humanity was no longer merely preparing for the possibility of conflict. They were positioning themselves to turn it to their advantage. Every fleet, every ship, every intelligence report, and every tactical simulation had a purpose. Humans had transformed potential disaster into an opportunity for decisive action. The Xerians had planned a trap, but humans had anticipated it, studied it, and prepared to respond in a way that would catch the enemy off guard. What had started as deception and tension now became a foundation for strategy, resilience, and the assertion of human strength. In summary, Part 3 shows humanity reaching a critical moment of realization. The Xerian plan was discovered, confirming that the peace treaty had been a setup. This knowledge forced humanity to act decisively, balancing secrecy with preparation, diplomacy with military readiness, and caution with proactive strategy. It highlights human resilience, creativity, and adaptability, demonstrating that even when faced with a powerful and deceitful opponent, they could prepare, anticipate, and respond effectively. This turning point sets the stage for the climax, where the full strength of human strategy and preparedness will be tested against the Xerians in a battle that could determine the fate of entire civilizations. The moment humanity had been preparing for finally arrived. The Xerian Union, confident in the deception of their peace treaty, launched their attack precisely as predicted. From the distant reaches of space, their massive warships emerged from hyperspace, expecting to encounter minimal resistance. They believed humanity would be caught off guard, that their hidden defenses and secret fleets were nothing more than rumors. The Xerian commanders expected a quick, decisive strike, confident that Earth and its colonies would crumble under their superior firepower. What they did not know was that every human leader, soldier, pilot, and engineer had anticipated this moment for months, if not years. Every contingency had been planned, every fleet strategically positioned, and every hidden facility ready to contribute to a response that would turn the invaders' plan against them. As the Xerian fleet approached the Orion Gate, a critical hyperspace corridor that connected human colonies to the heart of the solar system, they began their assault. Human border colonies, appearing vulnerable on the surface, were in fact heavily fortified with hidden defensive systems. Long-range cannons, shield generators, and automated defense drones activated simultaneously, catching the Xerian forces by surprise. Entire sections of the enemy fleet were met with precise, devastating fire before they could even engage the colonies directly. The first moments of battle set the tone. Humanity was ready, and the Xerians quickly realized that their assumptions had been entirely wrong. From the vantage point of Earth's hidden shipyards, the Guardian-class cruisers launched in unison, sleek, agile, and deadly. These ships had been designed for this moment. Cloaking systems allowed them to remain undetected until they were in optimal firing positions. Energy shields protected them from long-range attacks, while advanced rail plasma cannons delivered destructive force capable of tearing through even the Xerians' heavily armored vessels. Pilots, trained relentlessly in simulations and real-life scenarios, executed maneuvers that combined precision, speed, and coordination. Every action was calculated to create maximum confusion and disruption among the enemy ranks. Where the Xerians had expected vulnerability, they instead encountered a perfectly orchestrated trap, one in which every move they made played into humanity's strategy. The battle escalated quickly. Xerian warships, once confident, found themselves disoriented and under constant assault. Their initial formation began to break apart as human forces struck from multiple angles, utilizing both direct attacks and flanking maneuvers through asteroid fields, debris zones, and hidden jump points. Human ships coordinated through secure encrypted networks, sharing real-time intelligence to anticipate enemy movements. These tactics were unfamiliar to the Xerians, who were used to relying on overwhelming numbers and direct assault strategies. Humanity's use of stealth, adaptive weaponry, and clever positioning gave them an edge that began to shift the battle decisively. Meanwhile, human special forces carried out coordinated strikes on key Xerian vessels. Using small, fast ships, they infiltrated enemy formations, disabling critical systems, sabotaging weapons, and creating chaos within the fleet. These operations were highly risky. Every mission required precision and courage, but the rewards were immense. By targeting command ships and logistical vessels, human forces began to disrupt the coordination of the Xerian attack. Communications between enemy ships faltered, orders were delayed or misinterpreted, and panic began to spread among the invaders. What had been designed as a swift, overwhelming strike had transformed into a battle for survival against an adversary who was not only prepared but anticipating every move. On the surface of human colonies, civilians were quickly evacuated or protected in underground shelters. Emergency protocols ensured that essential personnel, engineers, medical staff, and command teams could continue to operate without interruption. Automated defense systems supplemented the human efforts, creating layers of protection that allowed the fleet and ground forces to coordinate more effectively. Energy shields and orbital cannons provided additional barriers, slowing the advance of the enemy and buying time for the human counterattack to unfold. The scale and precision of the human defense surprised even the most experienced Syrian officers. At the heart of the conflict, the flagship Resolute Dawn played a pivotal role. Commanded by humanity's most skilled admiral, it became the center of operations, coordinating attacks, relaying intelligence, and leading offensive strikes against the enemy fleet. The Resolute Dawn's advanced systems allowed it to track multiple targets, anticipate enemy maneuvers, and deploy countermeasures that neutralized incoming attacks. Its rail-plasma cannons tore through Zirian command vessels, while its shields absorbed repeated barrages that would have destroyed lesser ships. The flagship's presence boosted morale across the human forces, symbolizing both the strategic intelligence and the resilience of humanity. The turning moment of the battle came when human forces identified the Zirian command carrier, the nerve center controlling much of the attacking fleet. With communications disrupted, enemy ships began to operate semi-independently, creating confusion and opening vulnerabilities. Human commanders seized the opportunity. Coordinating a concentrated strike, they targeted the carrier with precision fire from multiple directions. It was a daring maneuver, fraught with danger, but executed flawlessly. The carrier was destroyed in a massive explosion that sent shockwaves through the enemy fleet. With their central command eliminated, the Zirian forces were thrown into disarray. Ships lost coordination, formations collapsed, and what had begun as a confident strike turned into a chaotic retreat. The battle extended across multiple systems, from the Orion Gate to Earth's orbit, with skirmishes erupting wherever Zirian forces attempted to regroup. Human strategy emphasized flexibility, adaptability, and surprise. Fleets shifted positions, exploiting weaknesses in enemy lines, and combined with ground-based defense systems to prevent any foothold for the invaders. Each success built momentum, allowing humans to push the Zirians further back and reclaim control of contested regions. The enemy, once poised for an easy victory, now faced the full force of a prepared and determined opponent. Throughout the battle, human ingenuity continued to shine. Engineers made real-time adjustments to ship systems, optimizing weapon output and shield efficiency. Pilots adapted their tactics dynamically, responding to unexpected maneuvers by the Zirian. Intelligence teams analyzed patterns mid-battle, providing commanders with insights that allowed for rapid, informed decisions. This ability to adapt and innovate under pressure contrasted sharply with the rigid strategies of the Zirians, who were unprepared for the human combination of creativity, resilience, and coordination. The climax of the conflict was as much about human resolve as it was about military technology. Civilians, though shielded from the direct fighting, contributed to the effort by supporting supply lines, communications, and emergency operations. The entire planet, from its leaders to its people, operated as a unified force. The sense of purpose, courage, and determination was palpable. Even in the face of a technologically superior enemy, humanity's unity and foresight allowed them to turn the tide of battle. What could have been a devastating defeat became a moment of triumph, a testament to preparation, intelligence, and the willingness to fight for survival. As the Zirian fleet began to retreat, disorganized and demoralized, humanity solidified its position. Strategic points, previously under threat, were now secure. Colonies were safe, supply lines were restored, and the balance of power had shifted. The battlefield was a testament to human planning, coordination, and execution. The victory was not just in the destruction of enemy vessels, but in the demonstration that humanity was capable of defending itself against the most powerful forces in the galaxy. It was a message that would resonate throughout the stars. Humanity was not naive, not weak, and certainly not to be underestimated. The human victory was decisive, but it also carried lessons. The Zirian's failure revealed the risks of underestimating a prepared opponent and the value of intelligence, strategy, and resilience. Humanity learned that preparation, patience, and adaptability could overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. The battle reinforced the importance of unity, both within military forces and across society as a whole. Every citizen, every engineer, every pilot had contributed to the outcome, and the experience forged a sense of confidence and purpose that would shape humanity's approach to interstellar relations in the years to come. In the end, the climax was not simply a battle won, it was a turning point in humanity's history. The Zirians had intended to use deceit to achieve a swift victory, but humans had anticipated, adapted, and executed a response that transformed a potential disaster into a demonstration of strength and resilience. The Guardian-class cruisers, the Resolute Dawn, the hidden fleets, and the carefully planned defensive systems. All played their roles in a coordinated effort that exemplified human ingenuity and courage. The battle marked the emergence of humanity as a force capable of standing against even the most powerful adversaries, a species that would no longer be underestimated or deceived. The victory at the climax of the battle set the stage for the resolution. Humanity, having proven its capability to defend itself, could now dictate terms, establish new strategies for security, and enter the next phase of interstellar diplomacy with strength and confidence. The Xerians, humbled and disoriented, would have to reconsider their approach to Earth, while humans would carry the lessons of vigilance, preparation, and unity into every future challenge. The climax was a defining moment, not just for the battle itself, but for the identity, resolve, and future of humanity in the galaxy. After the intense and decisive battle with the Xerian Union, humanity emerged victorious. But the victory was more than just a military success. It marked a transformation in the perception and status of the human race across the galaxy. For centuries, humans had been considered a young, inexperienced species, one that might be easily manipulated, deceived, or even conquered by the older, more advanced civilizations. The failed Xerian attack shattered that illusion. From this moment forward, humanity was no longer seen as naive or vulnerable. The entire galaxy recognized that Earth and its colonies were capable of strategic planning, technological innovation, and military coordination on a scale that rivaled even the most dominant alien forces. Back on Earth, the immediate focus after the battle was recovery and stabilization. Colonies that had been threatened, and in some cases lightly damaged during the conflict, were quickly repaired. Engineers worked tirelessly to restore infrastructure, repair communications networks, and rebuild damaged stations. Civilian populations, who had been shielded from the worst of the fighting, returned to their routines under the careful management of local administrators and emergency response teams. Supplies were redistributed, essential services restored, and morale boosted through coordinated efforts that reminded everyone that humanity had survived a trial that could have been catastrophic. The scale of human resilience became apparent to all, as citizens realized that, despite facing a technologically superior enemy, they had endured and even triumphed. Politically, the United Earth Council took a strong but measured approach. They understood that the galaxy was watching and that the outcome of the battle had strategic as well as symbolic importance. Public statements emphasized humanity's preference for peace, diplomacy, and cooperation. Leaders spoke about the importance of maintaining alliances, rebuilding trust, and avoiding unnecessary conflict. They highlighted the courage and sacrifice of the military, the ingenuity of engineers and scientists, and the resilience of everyday citizens. The narrative was clear. Humanity had defended itself, but it was not seeking vengeance. At the same time, the Council communicated privately with allied civilizations, signaling that humanity was now a power to be reckoned with, and that future threats would be met with preparedness and decisive action. The Xerian Union, humbled and fractured by their failed assault, had no choice but to reassess their approach. Their fleet had suffered significant losses, and the destruction of their command carrier disrupted their ability to coordinate attacks effectively. Communications between their colonies and military units were in disarray, creating internal confusion and fear. In the aftermath, they sent envoys to negotiate with Earth. But the tone of these communications was markedly different from before. The Xerians were no longer the confident, intimidating force that had orchestrated the treaty setup. Instead, they were cautious, aware that humanity had demonstrated both the intelligence and strength to survive their most calculated assault. For the first time, they approached diplomacy with humility, offering reparations, guarantees, and a willingness to discuss mutually beneficial arrangements under terms dictated by humans. While the Xerians sought to repair their reputation and salvage relations, humans were careful not to overreach. They understood that real power did not require showing aggression but maintaining control through strategy, credibility, and intelligence. Negotiations focused on establishing accountability for the attempted betrayal, ensuring that colonies damaged by Xerian actions would be compensated, and setting frameworks to prevent future deception. The process was meticulous, requiring patience, diplomacy, and careful attention to detail. By holding the Xerians accountable without pursuing punitive revenge, humans projected an image of maturity and wisdom, reinforcing their position as a capable and responsible species in the galaxy. Technology and defense strategies also evolved significantly after the battle. The Guardian-class cruisers, which had played a critical role in the victory, became symbols of humanity's preparedness and ingenuity. Their success validated the years of secret construction, testing, and training that had taken place before the conflict. Human engineers continued to innovate, improving these ships further, integrating lessons learned from real combat, and developing even more advanced systems for defense and exploration. Hidden shipyards, once secret, became strategic hubs for research, development, and deployment of additional fleets, ensuring that humanity would remain ready for any future threats. The experience reinforced the importance of vigilance, planning, and foresight, both for military forces and for the broader society. Beyond the immediate military and political consequences, The battle had profound effects on human society and culture. The story of Earth's victory spread across colonies and nations, inspiring confidence and pride. Citizens reflected on the courage and determination demonstrated during the conflict. Pilots, soldiers, engineers, and operatives who had risked their lives became national heroes, while the lessons learned in preparation, coordination, and strategy were integrated into education, leadership programs, and scientific research. The collective experience of surviving and defeating a powerful enemy fostered a sense of unity, resilience, and purpose that transcended individual nations and colonies. Humanity had proven that when faced with existential danger, it could rise to meet the challenge collectively. The psychological impact on humanity was equally significant. For years, humans had been aware of the potential threats lurking in the galaxy, and the idea of a powerful, deceitful enemy was a source of fear and uncertainty. Surviving and winning the battle against the Xerians transformed that fear into confidence. Citizens and leaders alike realized that preparation, intelligence, and careful coordination could allow even a relatively young and less technologically advanced species to confront and overcome threats from more experienced civilizations. This newfound confidence influenced decision-making across society, encouraging innovation, exploration, and proactive engagement with other species, rather than passive caution. Interstellar relations also shifted dramatically. Other species that had once doubted humanity's capability now viewed Earth as a serious and credible power. Diplomacy and alliances were approached with greater respect for human perspectives, and trade, scientific collaboration, and cultural exchange became more balanced and mutually beneficial. Humanity's approach to these interactions was informed by the lessons of the Xerian conflict. Trust must be earned, preparation is essential, and vigilance can coexist with diplomacy. Humans learned that projecting strengths does not mean aggression. It means being prepared, intelligent, and willing to act decisively if threatened. The colonies played a key role in this transformation as well. Colonists who had faced the threat of Xerian attack now understood the depth of human planning and the effectiveness of coordinated defense strategies. The trust between Earth and its colonies strengthened, creating a network of systems capable of supporting each other in times of crisis. Colonies became integral parts of humanity's strategic infrastructure, with resources, personnel, and intelligence shared seamlessly to ensure collective security. This integration reinforced the sense of unity and purpose that had been vital to surviving the conflict and would continue to guide humanity's growth in the galaxy. Culturally, the victory also inspired stories, art, and media that celebrated human ingenuity, courage, and resilience. From educational programs to novels and broadcasts, the narrative emphasized that humanity could overcome challenges through intelligence, collaboration, and determination. These stories served both to educate and to inspire future generations, reinforcing values such as preparation, strategic thinking, and perseverance. They reminded humans that while hope and diplomacy are important, they must always be accompanied by readiness and action when necessary at a strategic level. Humanity implemented new policies to ensure that they would remain prepared for any potential threats in the future. Intelligence networks were expanded, defensive capabilities enhanced, and rapid response protocols refined. Lessons learned from the battle with the Xerians were carefully analyzed, documented, and incorporated into military, political, and scientific planning. Humans understood that the galaxy was vast and unpredictable, and that threats could emerge at any time. By institutionalizing the lessons of this conflict, humanity ensured that future generations would benefit from both experience and preparedness, despite the focus on military and political outcomes. The victory also allowed humanity to return to long-term projects and ambitions that had been delayed or constrained by the threat of conflict. Scientific exploration, colonization of distant systems, and technological innovation were pursued with renewed energy, backed by the knowledge that Earth could defend itself against even the most formidable opponents. This balance between readiness and progress became a defining feature of humanity's approach to interstellar existence, combining ambition with prudence and curiosity with vigilance. The Xerians themselves became a cautionary tale. Their failed attack demonstrated the risks of underestimating an opponent, the importance of intelligence and preparation, and the limits of relying solely on force and deception. Within the Xerian Union, internal criticism and reassessment followed. Commanders and officials were forced to confront the consequences of arrogance, misjudgment, and underestimating the ingenuity of their adversaries. Their failure reinforced the lesson that intelligence, strategy, and adaptability can outweigh raw power, a principle that would influence interstellar relations in the years to come. Ultimately, the resolution of this conflict was not just about survival, it was about asserting humanity's place in the galaxy. The battle had tested humans to their limits, and they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident. Humanity had proven that it could defend itself, that it could plan and execute complex strategies, and that it could respond effectively to threats from the most powerful civilizations. This victory established Earth as a force to be reckoned with, a civilization capable of standing its ground while continuing to pursue diplomacy, cooperation, and exploration. In the end, Humanity's response to the Zirian setup highlighted the combination of intelligence, preparation, courage, and resilience that had always defined the species. By anticipating the threat, preparing secretly, and responding decisively, humans not only survived a potentially catastrophic situation but also demonstrated their capacity for strategic thinking and collective action on a galactic scale. The resolution reinforced the importance of vigilance, unity, and adaptability, while also showing that true strength lies in the ability to act wisely under pressure. The experience left humanity with a new understanding of its role in the galaxy. Peace, while desirable, could not be taken for granted. Diplomacy was valuable, but it needed to be backed by readiness, intelligence, and strategy. Humans had learned that hope and cooperation were powerful tools, but they must be balanced with caution and preparedness. By achieving this balance, humanity secured not just survival but the respect and recognition of other civilizations, ensuring that Earth would no longer be seen as a vulnerable or inexperienced species. The victory also set the stage for the next chapter in human history. With the Zirians humbled and relations redefined, humans could focus on expanding their influence, exploring new systems, and strengthening alliances. The lessons of preparation, vigilance, and unity would guide their approach to future challenges. Humanity had learned that even when faced with deception and overwhelming power, intelligence, courage, and resilience could turn the tide. The resolution of this conflict was therefore not just an ending, it was a beginning, marking the emergence of a species capable of defending itself, shaping its destiny, and commanding respect across the galaxy. In conclusion, the aftermath of the battle demonstrated the full impact of humanity's strategic foresight and preparation. The Zirian betrayal failed, but in doing so, it revealed the strengths of human intelligence, planning, and adaptability. Colonies were secured, alliances strengthened, and the species emerged with a new sense of purpose and confidence. The story of survival and victory became a symbol of human resilience and ingenuity, inspiring generations to come and establishing Earth as a powerful, respected, and capable civilization in the galaxy. The resolution was a testament to the idea that peace must be paired with readiness, and that vigilance, courage, and unity are the keys to thriving in an unpredictable universe.